Through active participation, young people are empowered to play a vital role in their own development, as well as in that of their communities, helping them to learn vital life skills, develop knowledge on human rights and citizenship, and to promote positive civic actions. To participate effectively, young people must be given the proper tools such as information, education about, and access to their civic rights. Active citizenship depends on trust and the willingness to constructively engage with institutions. Without a minimum level of confidence in institutions such as local politicians, courts, police, and political or religious groups, it is difficult for youth to work constructively with these bodies of authority. Young people in particular seem to display lower levels of political trust, which is kind of logical, which is a challenge for the sustainability of democracy. I believe that young people are quite critical. In a sense, they critically disseminate everything around them and hence trust less. But still, these levels of political trust among youth differ greatly from country to country. What is the relationship of the youth and the institutions that are representing them in Europe? What are the ways to improve the trust between these two groups and actors? In this episode of YouthSquad, I have an amazing opportunity to talk with very, very beautiful and smart Daniela. She's an active young person herself and also someone who tries to engage with the young people around her through her work, which is in public relations, media, and so on. She'll tell us more about it. So, hello, Daniela. Thank you for being here. And how are you?
Hello. I'm really excited to be here. I really feel comfortable here, and I'm really looking forward to talking about this important topic today with you.
Do you find it important because you work in it, or did you start working in it because you found it important?
Ooh, great question. I started working in it because I thought and I felt that it is something important. And I would say that people today often think that young people are not interested to be engaged in those civic initiatives, I would say. But my opinion is that is wrong. And I feel that young people today in our country are really interested to be active participants in all the changes that are happening around us. And I would say that those changes are happening every day. Like that is something that is calling you for action. And I think that is important for every young person that wants to live here to give their sense of part in that situation that is happening. So yeah, that would be my answer to your question.
That's a nice way you handled the question. Yeah, I mean, obviously you gotta, like, it's kind of the mix of both. Like, you find it important, you start working in it, and you continue working in it because you find it important. And such, you know, perceptions that the youth is passive, not non-reactant to the environment that they live in is quite negative, and it leaves negative consequences on our perception of youth. And also it kind of serves as a self-fulfilling prophecy where young people believe that they are perceived as, passive, lethargic, that they become lethargic and passive to fulfill the expectations that society has of them. So that's, quite a cycle that we have to break out of. So my next question for you would be, how did you break out of it? Like, how did you enter this, world to become active?
Yeah, that's a whole new world, I would say. And I think that I started getting along with that world in high school when I started writing for a youth magazine that is called Oblakoder, and today it is also doing really great, and I'm really proud that story is something that is ongoing still. So that was first step, I would say, that I took to enter this active world, and it started somewhere 2018, I would say, 2018. And I started first going to events and taking like actions on those events, writing interviews and something like that. And after those first stages of journalism, I felt that I can do something more, and that I want to engage in some topics that are more important than just some events that are happening today and they will end. So I remember one particular text that I wrote that I'm really proud, and that is about female body and summer, like connection between how we see our body and how other people see our bodies, and why is it wrong that we don't want to do something in the summer because we don't feel secure enough in our bodies. So I would say that was some first step. And after that, I was even more encouraged, and I did a text on women in politics. So I actually had really nice speakers on this topic. I talked with Maria Ratkovic and some other politicians, female politicians, that told me mostly the same things, that it is a man's world, and it is something that women have to even more fight and to prove themselves that they are worthy enough.
Like there's this huge disadvantage that they have to, make up for.
Exactly. And that is something that men don't understand, and they feel like they are being attacked because you say it is not the same positions that women and men that start from. So I would say that are some first steps in active participation. And I would say that writing and expressing myself through words was always something that was my way of fighting, like in this battle, let's call it that way. And that's some of the history of my participation.
Yeah, I didn't know this about you, so that was interesting to hear. So you basically found your way to communicate what you believe in through words, for, like in formats that young people actually consume. So, for example, youth magazines, talking about the topics that they find important, but most importantly, in a language that they find understandable, which I think is a crucial thing, because what does it matter what you're going to talk about if no one understands what you're saying because you're speaking a language nobody speaks? And sometimes we, overlook the fact that even if we're technically speaking the same language in a sense of, grammar, like standard language, it's still like the words that we use, the terminologies, sometimes can really affect how we perceive the topic that's being handled. I believe firmly that the youth in our region, in the Western Balkans, in Europe as well, in less developed countries, I believe that the youth feels kind of, avoidant, avoids to join this world of active participation, because the topic of active participation, even the word itself, is quite vague, and it's quite always, written in such big terms and, terminologies and things that we don't understand. So we feel like this world, we don't belong in this world, so we stay away from it. I find what you do really cool, because I've read your articles prior to this episode, but also because I am familiar with your work in general, and I know how you handle it. Do you think that it's hard, is it hard to communicate heavy, maybe even vague, sometimes even monotonous topics in a youth-friendly way? Like in a way that your peers and people younger or around your age can understand?
Yeah, I think that is really important to speak to write as we speak. So sometimes I imagine myself talking to someone that is not in that topic that I'm writing about, for example, and I'm thinking for myself, okay, how do I explain this definition or something that I want to express, but so this person that is not quite interested in that topic can understand, and how do I get them interested in that topic? So I would say that is one task that I give myself before writing anything that I find important to express. And also, I would say that people really believe in texts that they find themselves in. For example, if you
relating to something.
Yeah, exactly. If you give them a situation where they can find themselves, for example, why you should volunteer this summer, or how to get most of your longest summer between like high school and faculty. And that is something that young people resonate with because they find themselves as a part of that story. And I think that is the way that we get them involved in any topic that we think that is important, but also to have in mind that not only same people are going to be interested in every topic. So that is okay that someone is interested in ecology and someone else is interested in feminism and someone else is interested in human rights or democracy or something like that. So it's not always that we are talking with all the same people. It's different young people that we are speaking to, but somehow they are connected with this idea that they want to live in a better society, I would say.
Wow. I mean, yeah, this was a really nice statement, I believe. I mean, okay, so basically finding specific topics is what you said, and communicating in a relatable way. That's the key. I think, I mean, obviously you know what you're doing, so like obviously you're good at it, and like you are pretty aware of what the recipe is to reach the targeted audience that you want to reach. But what would you say, like, how to find those keys? Like, I believe that you alone, you're doing amazing work, but you can't do it alone. Like, there has to be, like, just like you mentioned, there's a lot of topics, many people will be interested in different things. And in order to cover the whole society, we need to have diversity within those who communicate towards it. So, if we have more people talking about these topics in a relatable way, that such as those articles that you write, our society is going to get a clearer picture. Youth will get a clearer picture of what it means to be active, to participate in important processes, political, social, and so on and so on. So what is for you, what do you believe that is one piece of advice you would give to other people working in this area, like media, communications, and those things? How do they reach young people, and how do they maybe create these bridges between youth and institutions?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say
I'd propose two questions actually, but Lee can answer separately.
I would say that you can find young people where they are. So, okay, we now know that TikTok is something that is really popular among young people, but I would say that it is not the only way to get to young people, because the question is, who do you want to engage and what topics are they interested in? Because we know that on TikTok you can serve content that is educational, but somehow it always gets to, I would say, kind of wrong side. And like that young people that see content that is meant to be educational, they somehow don't read it that way, and I think they misunderstand it as something that is not important and that doesn't engage them.
You mean like they kind of don't want to consume content that's boring, air quotes, boring, like in a sense they perceive education as something that's, boring.
Connected to institution like school or faculty, and that they are not quite interested in learning ways how to be active citizen, for example, or something related to that. So I would say it's not necessary to be in every platform that there is. So in order to get to every young person, I would say that some traditional ways of getting to engage young people are also really effective. such as billboards. I would say that a really great campaign that Coms did on dialogue with Prime
National Youth
Minister.
Council of Serbia.
National Youth Council did a great campaign on promoting dialogue with Prime Minister, and the decision was to use billboards. So I would say we should use also those traditional methods to engage young people, but in order to get them more interested. I think that, for example, they used the QR code for leaning on the site.
To the landing stage.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say that is something that is calling you to take action. And first step is that you see, and that gets your interest, and your next step is, okay, I'm taking out my phone and I'm going to that site.
You're engaging, basically.
Yeah, that is first step. And I think when you take that first step, there is no coming back. Like you are
stopping.
Yeah. So I would say those traditional methods are also a great way, and you can use them really well if you know how. So I don't think it's necessary to be in every platform. You just need to use those that you have, that you want to focus on wisely.
So utilize whatever channel of communication you have. So if you are even on TikTok, which is, you're not saying that you shouldn't use TikTok, but if you are on TikTok, you need to utilize using it. So you need to prepare content that's not going to be, that young people are not going to dismiss right after 2 seconds. It has to be engaging from the second that they see it, that they interact with, so that they stay until the end of the video, for example. So, but it's really interesting because, we have to define these target groups in order to approach them better. You have to prepare a unique, specific way of approach to specific and different target groups. So if you're, targeting, young people, they're not a homogeneous group of people. There's a lot of different interests within subcultures, as well as, different age groups, and so on and so on. So, you have to really think about all of these things. There's a lot of layers that you have to, peel off in order to get to the core of the problem. I mean, not the problem, but just the things.
Yeah. But I would say, there are many layers of young people among themselves. But I would say that something that is really connecting them all is what I said previous. And that is they want to live in a better society. So if we use this line as something that is connecting all of them, and just making sure that this message is diverse on every language that they speak, I would use, for example, that line as something that is connecting them all, and that is something really important to them all. Maybe they don't speak aloud every day, I want to do this and do that, but deep down I know that every young person feels that way.
I mean, everyone wants to live in a better place. It's not unique to young people, but also,
exactly.
Youth kind of, for me, what really is my experience, like as a young person, what's different from me and my parents, for example, is that I am entering the world right now. So I'm not used to seeing it this way. I think after some time you get used to it, and, that's when you become maybe a bit more passive. You don't have to, become completely ignorant to the reality, but like you get a little bit more, used to the reality that's maybe not really quite fit for you. But like, as a young person, you feel this kind of revolutionary vibe and inner drive for change, because you're entering a world and you see how messy it is, and you want to change it. And I think that's, one key thing that we have to work on when we're communicating towards young people, is that like we trigger those emotions. Like you trigger that dissatisfaction and you make it positive, because it's really like not good that you don't feel good where you are. But use it for positive things. Yeah,
I would say that is art. Like using those negative emotions and those frustrations that young people have for not finding a job, for not being valued in society or in workplace, anywhere, and to turn it and to give them power and to empower them to do something. And the way of doing that is, I would say, through institutions. So, what is the bridge between young people and institutions? I would say that this communicating message, what young people have to say to the decision makers, is something that is really a responsible task for anyone that is doing that, and that this needs to be clearly communicated. As we want to take some to spread the message on young people, we also want to communicate the message that young people have to the institutions, and to tell them, okay, this is what young people want and this is what they do not want. So you can do what you want, but in your interest, in your best interest, is to listen at least some of those advices that they are giving you, so that they feel better and that you feel also better as a politician, as a decision maker, and so
as someone whose work it is to make a better conditions for living. But do you see like the role of the media in that? You mentioned that bridge, and like this message, communicating message that has to go through from the youth to institutions, but also from institutions to the youth. Do you think that media can do that work? Like, do you think that media can serve as a connection between these two?
I would say they have a really important role. But I was just listening to some interview that students from Faculty of Political Science did, and they were interviewing young people around some faculties, and they were asking youth how do they inform themselves, and they usually said that they do it through social media or through reading some daily news. Television or radio is not the part of their informational system. So I was thinking about, okay, if this is the way they inform themselves, how important media is in there. Because we now see that everyone is in a way like medium for themselves. So even our Instagram channels are way of spreading some message. So I would say, media has important role, but young media, like media that is
directly communicating towards you,
are even more important. And I would say they do a great job on informing on actual situations and events, but also like having those important topics such as ecology or feminism or anything that is important, even healthcare. They are doing that in a way that we can all understand why is that important, and how if that is not 100% concerned about us, what if that happens to someone that I love tomorrow? So I would say they do a great job on communicating the needs. And also one of the great things about internet are online interviews, where you can actually ask young people what do they think about any topic, and around that you build a whole story. So I would say gathering all those voices that media has a power to do, young media especially, I think that is something really crucial and something that they really should use.
And I think that's also, like, if we circle back to the beginning of this podcast episode when we mentioned that the youth has lots of trouble trusting and relying on institutions that represent them or should represent them. Actually, I think what you just scratched now is that, by communicating through those channels such as, youth media and so on, is a way to gain more trust and to rely on people and decision makers and those representatives in courtrooms, in parliaments, in local communities, and so on, to actually do the justice and do the work that they have been picked for. And I think media has a role of criticizing the decision makers, the society we live in, holding them accountable for the things they do, but they also have a role to actually of engaging the society with the institutions, calling for actions, and creating that social pressure for institutions to do their work.
Yeah, sorry, but I think that social pressure is something that is like extremely important, and that we can see through past events that really did something, and those small or bigger changes that are happening and that has happened are example of how social pressure and people that are gathered around one idea can do something better, can benefit from. So I think that is really like keyword, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree with you on that, and I believe that the social pressure is one of the main pillars of democracy and active citizenship. Obviously, because democracy is in my head quite synonymous with active participation in political processes. And the media being something that has the power to create social pressure is directly actually a key to democracy. So seeing that as in that way, like as this line of responsibilities and roles, media is free media. Also really important to mention, not all media, but free media, objective, ethical media is the main pillar of democracy in my head.
Yeah, but connecting all of those things that we are talking, it's also important how those topics that are not quite interesting to young people because they don't feel they're connected to it, like finding a way to get and spot their interest, and after that to use that interest built in trust and trust built in some collective action is really, as I said, an art. Like it's really not easy to translate, let's call it that way, the key message that you want to send, and to express it and explain it to young people. Why is it important and why it really does concern them? So yeah,
I appreciate how you circled back to that, and how you created this connection between these two things. I think that's really important, and especially for this episode, because like we are talking about active participation. How do you do it? I think you just really answered it pretty well. Like, how do you call people to be active? You communicate to them in a way that they understand. I think that's really important, and I want to thank you for talking about this topic and for sharing your expertise with us, but also this personal touch to it, because calling it an art makes it really personal. It's not just a work for you. I believe it's the way to express yourself. It's also to process your frustrations and your mind processes, which you have, mental processes that you have, like everything that you handle throughout the day, like every time someone pisses you off, every time, like just something happens, you can also, process it through your work.
Yeah, I would say that this is really powerful tool to use your voice and to express yourself. And I haven't thought that connection, that it's not only work, it's like way of expressing yourself. But I would say this was definitely inspiring conversations and conversation. And thank you for that.
No, thank you for being here. Honestly, it was really a joyful conversation, and I can't believe that the time just passed us by. I think this definitely calls for another episode, like as a follow-up for this, and I really hope that in the future we will have a chance to talk about it more. To our audience, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Youth Squad. Thank you, Daniela.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Youth Squad. My name is Maria. The Youth Squad podcast series is recorded under a small-scale project in the field of youth called Voicehood of Youth, which will cover 4 topics: human rights, gender equality, European multiculturalism, inclusion and diversity, and active participation. The project is implemented within the Erasmus Plus program and is financed by the Swedish National Agency. Thank you for tuning in, and make sure you stay tuned for another episode.